Alright guys, what is up? And today I'm coming at you with an updated deck profile of my Blackwing deck. Yeah, this is a deck I've had for quite some time now and profiled it originally, I think about a year ago or something like that. But recently with the release of Wing Raiders, there's a lot of new generic Wing Beast support, or at least reprints of some cards like Swallow's Nest, for example, that were really great in a lot of different decks like Harpies, Blackwings, and Raid Raptors, but were just really hard to get just because that card didn't have a reprint. And also they bumped up some rarities for a couple different cards, but just overall really great pack. And I've been playing around with this deck for quite some time now, just because this is one of my favorite decks of all time, just because it can make some really fun combo plays. Like, you can go for an OTK with Sirocco, or you can make some really cool synchros, or make some really neat rank 4s and things of the like. But I've been playing around with it a little bit, and this is just kind of the build I've stuck with for now, but maybe changing it later on. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. Starting with the monsters, one Sirocco. Originally was playing this guy at 2, but with the release of Harmattan the Dust in Breakers of Shadow. Originally I played Sirocco because he was your way of making level 8 synchros, but now with the release of Harmattan, it kind of takes away from that fact, but I just like him just for that easy normal summon if your opponent controls a monster and you don't, and if you have a Whirlwind with his 2000 attack, he can search up basically any other Blackwing monster in the deck. And also, if the conditions are right, you can do his effect and go for a crazy amount of damage on your opponent, where you target a Blackwing monster you control. It gains the attack of all face-up Blackwing monsters you currently control, other than itself, but it's the only monster that can attack that turn. So the thing I like to do with this is, for those of you, a lot of the Blackwings have an effect where if you control another Blackwing that has a different name than that monster, you can special summon that monster from your hand, and things of the like. So you have Sirocco and a couple other Blackwings like that. You can just basically swarm the field really easy. It's essentially pendulum summoning just without the scales, really, if you think about it. And then say I like to target Bora if they try to wall me. Or if they have something kind of bigger, I'll just do Gale's effect and have its attack and then proceed to run it over. And Bora's just really good. You can do its effect with Sirocco and it can gain all of the attacks of your Blackwing monsters and then get piercing. So Sirocco just kind of helps for his little kind of big OTK effect, and also just going for some nice synchro plays and also searches with Whirlwind. The next two copies of Chris. Originally I was playing this guy at 3, but the release of some of the newer support cards, main deck space is now getting really tight along with the extra deck. But the extra deck can change depending on the format, but the main deck is really where it's at. But Chris's effect, for those who don't know, he has the generic Blackwing effect, where if you have a Blackwing other than Chris, then you can special summon him, and once per turn he can't be destroyed by spell or trap effects. So he gets around Bottomless, Torrential, Solemn Warning, Solemn Strike, and things like that. Plus 1900 attack, easy special summon, and plus you can even normal summon him, and just, again, get more Whirlwind searches. Then 2 Shura, bumped him down to 2 just because his little search effect is still okay, just not as needed as it was quite a while back when I first originally built the deck. But still 1800 attack that can just run over monsters and pull stuff out of the deck and go for cool synchro plays during your main phase 2 is still a really nice thing to have. Just 1800 beat stick is really good. The next 2 copies of Bora, same situation as Shura, gotta bump it down to 2 just for main deck issues. But Bora's still another easy special summon, also 1700 attack that can pierce. Just, again, Whirlwind Searches kind of speaks for itself, but really great card overall. And then, of course, your mandatory 1 Zephyros, because you're only allowed to play 1 copy. This card's kind of self-explanatory. The next 3 copies of Kalut, don't really have any plans on bumping this card down to anything lower than 3. Just because it's really great offensively and defensively. Just because your opponent does try to run over your Blackwings and they don't expect it, it'll really catch them off guard just with a quick 1400 attack bump that lasts until the end of the turn, which is really good. And plus, I like how the effect stacks, where if you have multiple Kaluts, then it'll be 1400 for each one. So if you, like, say, discard 2, the monster will gain 2800 attack until the end of the turn. I've only pulled off the effect where I discarded all 3 at once, but that's a very rare situation, and kind of a ballsy thing to do, in my opinion, just because if your opponent does stop it and say they drop like a Battle Fader or a Swift Scarecrow or like Wabaku or something like that, it'll really mess you up. But in most cases, you just want to use Kalut unless you're pushing for damage and you know your opponent doesn't play anything like Battle Fader or Swift Scarecrow, or any kind of battle traps that could stop you. Just really best to play it defensively if they're trying to run over one of your Blackwings during their turn. And then something new I've been trying out is one copy of Gladius. Just one copy's worked out pretty well for me just because it's an easy whirlwind search, just because it only has 800 attack. And you can special summon if you control exactly one Blackwing, so it can make some cool combos with Gale and things like that. Second effect is kind of relevant, where once per turn it can't be destroyed by battle. But in most cases, you're just going to drop him as a special summon in a level 3 for some synchros. The next two of the new guy from Breakers of Shadow, 2 Blackwing Harmat in the Dust. Has the generic Blackwing effect where you can special summon one if you have a different name. And his effect is that whenever he's normal or special summoned, you can target one other Blackwing monster you control, increase Harmattan's level by that of the monster. So say, for example, what I like to do is I'll have Gale on field, and then you can do Harmattan's effect to target Gale. And then he will gain 3 levels, so he then becomes a level 5, and then Gale's a level 3, so that's your level 8 synchro right there. So he kind of really works out great just for his level modulation, so making those awkward synchros a little bit easier to make. The next 2 copies of Gale, even though he is at 3, you don't absolutely need 3 in my opinion. Granted, he is a free special summon, and having opponent's monster to attack is really, really nice. It's just like I said, main deck space. You want to have more options than just going for Gale like crazy, but still just nice 2 of. Then 2 copies of Pinaki. Pinaki, he's a great turn 1 card if you're going first. Just to set it and pass, and really, really works great with Icarus attack, just because during the turn he's sent to the graveyard, you can add a Blackwing from your deck to your hand during the end phase. So like what I like to do is I'll set him an Icarus attack and pass, and then if my opponent gets a couple back row cards on the field or a monster and some back row, they'll attack Pinaki, and then go to damage calculation, flip Icarus attack, tribute Pinaki, pop their back row or their monster in their back row, just depending on what cards they have set up. And then they'll go to their main phase 2, do whatever and pass, and the Pinaki effect will then activate, and say you can add like a Blizzard, so you can bring back one of your Blackwings, or even Pinaki if you need some sort of weird synchro. Speaking of which, 2 copies of Blizzard, he's constantly stayed at 2 for me, just because 2's worked out pretty great. Easily searchable through Whirlwind. The only downside is that he can't be special summoned, but in most cases you don't really need to special summon him. So that's why it's not that big of an issue. But just easy normal summon, bring back a level 4 lower Blackwing in defense, and make your synchro right there. So he can bring back Harmattan. Harmattan can increase his level, so then you can make a level 6, or you can just bring back Bora, Shura, Chris, and then make your level 6 right there. And then the last Blackwing, or the last monster in the deck, 2 Orochi. Orochi can work out pretty great, like Kalut, both offensively and defensively, just because easy special summon. And where he's used as a synchro mode show, he can change the battle position of a monster on the field, so it doesn't always have to be your opponent, so you can do it on your monsters as well. So, like, say for example, if you have a Blackwing monster on the field, like, say Pinaki, and Pinaki's an attack, and you don't want to take battle damage, you can synchro with Orochi and another Blackwing, and then you bring out your synchro, then the Orochi effect will activate. And you can change Pinaki to defense, so if they do run it over in battle, you won't take any battle damage unless they have piercing, so. And also, if your opponent does try to wall, you can synchro with Orochi, and then change the monster to attack and go for more damage that way. The next, moving on to the spells, of course, your 3 copies of Black Whirl, and this is kind of like your Yang Zing creation. You want to see it as quickly as possible. It generates you so much card advantage, and if you can resolve multiple of these during a turn, it's crazy. And if your opponent doesn't stop it pretty soon, then you're going to really, really overwhelm them with a ton of Blackwings. But for those of you who don't know what this card does, whenever you normal summon a Blackwing, you can add a Blackwing monster from your deck to your hand that has attack less than the monster normal summoned. So say you normal summon a Bora. Bora has 1700 attack, so you can add a Blackwing of 1600 or less, so you can add Zephyros, Kalut, Gladius, Harmattan, Gale, Pinaki, Blizzard, or Orochi. So that's where Sirocco comes in handy, just because he can search any Blackwing in the deck, because they'll have 1900 attack or less. So just if they made some way to make this card searchable, the Blackwings would be like way better, or at least way more consistent, in my opinion. The next 2 copies of MST. Some people question why I run MST over Twin Twisters, just because I don't want to always discard cards. In most cases, my cards I want to keep in my hand just to pop, but granted, Twin Twister can pop more cards. It's just the discarding thing that really sets me off, and plus I already have enough back row and card destruction in this deck, so 2 MST just works out fine. And then 1 copy of Instant Fusion. just because Northern plays, they do help, but it's not always needed, so that's why I only run one, just because it's great for whenever you pull it off. And then lastly, one Raigeki, because board wipes, why not? Go for more damage. And get rid of those pesky monsters. The next for the traps, 2 Black Sonic. I bumped this up to 2 and cut Delta Crow just because not a whole lot of decks you'll see set a lot of back row, and in which cases decks that do set a lot of back row, you do have ways of dealing with that. So that's why I cut Delta Crow entirely. And bumped Black Sonic up to 2 just because it's a really, really great battle trap if you can keep a Blackwing on field. And if your opponent doesn't expect it, just banishing all attack position monsters is really, really devastating. And if you have Executive 3 on the field, dropping this from the hand is really dumb, in my opinion. Then 2 Icarus attack. Kind of glad they reprinted this as a super because it looks really cool. At least better, in my opinion, compared to the gold rares and the commons. But like I said, this works with Panaki extremely well. He's the ideal target, but in some cases you just got to get rid of something else. So that's why you don't want to always save this just for solely Panaki, but you can say tribute one of your level 4s. And then next turn summon a Blizzard and then bring that monster right back. But this is just kind of your generic clear the field card for Blackwings. The 2 Call Haunted, pretty self-explanatory because you're not always going to have Blizzard in hand. But flipping this just to reborn a monster works out really, really well. And also kind of combos well with Zephyros. For the next couple traps, kind of more of an anti-meta setup. Just because Blackwings can be really, really aggressive at times and don't really have a lot of defense. So that's why I kind of went with some more kind of anti-meta traps. Other than the generic Bottomless and Solemn Warning, I also played 2 Trap Tricks Trap Hole and 1 Chaos Trap Hole. Trap Tricks Trap Hole is really, really come in handy just because there's a lot of monster effects to activate during the turn their special summon. Like, for example, I was playing this, I was testing out this new build IRL against a friend that was playing Super Heavy Samurais. And what he tried to do was he summoned a Giant Rat, crashed into my Zephyros. The Giant Rat died, he special summoned Battle Ball and went to his main phase 2. And then he tried to activate Battle Ball's effect to synchro with my Zephyros. But then I activated Trap Trick Trap Hole, and that really messed up his play because I had a fair amount of back row that was going to try and wipe with Ogre Shooting Doji. So this card really comes in handy, and also Chaos Trap Hole. Just a lot of light and dark monsters running around. If you can just stop their summon right there, it's really, really good. So that wraps up the main deck. Moving on to the extra. For the synchros, 1 Armades. A lot of people have their different opinions on synchros and Blackwings. But for mine, I want to have a fair amount of rank 4s just because this deck can make them really easy. And I want to have a lot of synchros, just want to have a fair amount of options, just want to mainly focus on the ones I can make more consistently, which are 6s and 7s. And then the occasional 8 and 5, just in case the situation does come up where you can make it. But Armades is a really great level 5 synchro, just because they can't respond to his attack or him being attacked, so he really works out well. The next 2 copies of No Thung, he's kind of like your cowboy if you think about it. Because whenever he's special summoned once per turn, he burns your opponent for 800, and you target a monster they control, it loses 800 attack and defense permanently. So it combos really well if you make it with Gale and Gladius, because you can have Gale and then summon Gladius, or vice versa, because it could work either way. And then you can do the Gale effect to target one of their monsters, have its attack and defense permanently, and then summon No Thung, and then just lower it even more. So it makes running over those really, really big monsters really easy. And also, the extra normal summon of a Blackwing works out really, really well with Black Whirlwind, just because more searches really helps. And only 1 Hawkjoe, just cut him down to 1 just because the combo with him and Orochi is really great. Because you can summon No Thung and then special summon Orochi, and then synchro for them, and then summon Hawkjoe and then do the Hawkjoe effect to bring No Thung right back. So it's a really, really combo just to get bigger monsters on the field really easy. And plus, if he was to be targeted for an effect or an attack, you can just target another Blackwing you control. So if they try to run over him with only 1 monster in their field, you can target No Thung will die, and they can just bring it back again next turn and do its burn and reduce effect again. So he's a really great one-up, in my opinion. The 1 Armor Master, just because it's a great stall card, because not being able to be destroyed by battle and not taking any battle damage is really, really great. And plus his little, at the end of the damage step, if he battles an opponent's monster, he can put a wedge counter, and then you can remove the wedge counter, make that monster's attack and defense 0 until the end of the turn. So it really, really helps out with multiple Blackwings on the field, because he can run into something, you not take damage, and it won't die. And then you can remove that wedge counter, have your smaller Blackwing run it over, and just go for more damage. The 1 Raikir, the Rain Shower, one of the new guy that came out of Dimensions of Chaos. I'm not playing Kunai the Drizzle just because I don't like his effect that much, just from personal testing. I hardly ever used him at all. I'd rather just stick with the one Sirocco, but Rakiri is really great. Kind of plays along with the new theme of the Assault Blackwings, where if they're Synchro, someone using a Blackwing monster, the Synchro monster becomes a tuner, which kind of leads a lot of people to think that they're going to have some kind of new Blackwing monster similar to Quasar or Red Nova Dragon. Probably be more along the lines of like Red Nova Dragon, Shooting Stardust Dragon, or whatever it is. It's like this new card that's on OCG that hasn't come out yet. So fingers crossed we actually do get a card like this for Blackwings. But Rakiri, his other effect is that once per turn you can target cards your opponent controls up to the number of other Blackwing monsters you control and destroy them. So if you have at least one monster on the field, you're just popping a card for free, which is always a really good thing. And plus, if you can get multiple Blackwings on the field, you can just basically decimate their board and go crazy. The one Black Rose, just generic board wipe, sometimes you need it, so it's good for an option. Then one Clearwing Synchro Dragon, just because if you're playing against a deck that summons a lot of high-level monsters. For example, Mermills could be one. If they try to activate their effects, you can just negate it with Clearwing, and Clearwing can gain their attack until the end of the turn, so it makes it hard for them to run over him. But it may get swapped out for a Crystal Link Synchro Dragon whenever it comes out in the TCG and Shining Victories, but I may test that later online. And then for level 8, Spiels. This card is personally my opinion. I like running this in Blackwings versus some other level 8s, like, for example, Crimson Blader or Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend. Because, don't get me wrong, those two are both really, really great cards. It's just that they're really good only against certain matchups, like, say, Crimson Blader. Really, really great card against Cosmos, because if you can run over their stuff, then they can't summon their big ships next turn. And Scarlet, really, really great against those decks that like to swarm a lot of special summon monsters. You can just burn for damage and go for really great, really big 3k hit to the face. But Beals works out just really, really well, in my opinion, as a generic level 8 Synchro. Just because big 3k beats like that can't be targeted or destroyed by battle or card effects. Just really, really great, in my opinion. Really easy to make in this deck now with Harmat in the Dust. And the one Trishula, just because new support, you can make this guy way easier now. Part of me wants to make room for Leo, Keeper of the Sacred Tree, and Star Eater. May cut some of the generic rank 4s, but I'll have to test that later. Speaking of the generic rank 4s, play one Raid Raptor Force Tricks. He comes in handy just because you can instantly just grab your Zephyros, your Bora, your Shura, or your Chris with his effect. And getting bumped up by 500 for each Wing Beast monster you control really, really helps. It's just that at maximum he's only going to be 2100, so it helps whenever you can get him in attack, but in most cases you're just going to sit on a nice 2000 wall and just search out your Blackwings that you need for whatever the situation calls for. But he's just really a great utility card. One Ice Beast Zero Fine, just big skill drain that can negate everything on your opponent's field and then just get big for every face-up card on the field. So in the right setup, this guy can get really, really big and be really, really annoying to play against. One Castell, just really a great card in Blackwings overall, just because you can either book a moon a card, spend something back to the deck, and even if he does run out of materials, he's still an Icarus attack target, so you can still make use of him even after he loses his materials. The one Diamond Direwolf, just because this is a Wing Beast deck, you can make him in here really easy, and just popping cards is really great to kind of more ensure that your attacks can go off. The one Norton, just because there's a lot of really great plays that you can do with him, like say you can bring back, say, your Zephyros, your Shura, your Bora, and then you can make your generic rank 4s right there. Or one combo I did one time is do his effect to bring back, what's his name? Kalute. And then I normal summoned a Blizzard, and then that was 9 stars, so I made Trishula right there. So there's just a lot of different fun combos you can do with Norton, and any deck that can make use of him, I'd recommend playing him in there. But yeah, that's it for the updated deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed this. But like I said, this is one of my favorite decks of all time. Just really, really great deck, super fun to play, and is constantly getting new support. Maybe updating this from time to time. Kind of regret not doing more updated deck profiles, but like I said, I will be playing around with this, with some new card choices, and I may be updating this deck from time to time and show you guys. But yeah, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching, and as always, I will catch you guys later.